We are done with the delay. We should be live. I'm not seeing any delay on my OBS. So everything should be good to go. Aaron, I'll let you take it right back and get us right back into things.
Great. So we just finished talking about how students can join college esports. One thing that I kind of wanted to mention was you can also message recruiters directly on the HSEL Discord. If you don't already know about that, there's a recruiter channel, and you have direct access to, I believe, I think it's like 60 recruiters on there, something crazy
Something
like
like that
that.
right
And
now.
It's like all of my schools, yeah.
pretty much all of your
Pretty
schools,
much,
and,
yeah.
and some change a little bit, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's a really great opportunity to try to get in touch with recruiters there. I also wanted to ask you, Michael, how does the league work within NACE? How do people play games? How is it associated with NACE? So competition with
Sure.
National Association of Collegiate Esports.
Yeah, so that's a complicated subject because it changes. The answer changes dramatically depending on the game we're talking about.
Right,
And
right.
that's really because of the publisher. So here, I'll give you an example. We work very closely with Blizzard and with Riot. However, in terms of competition, Riot runs exclusively the only varsity level competition in North America, and that's through their College League of Legends. That's in the second semester of the academic year. When we work very closely with on the administrative side, so academic standards, scheduling,
Hmm.
looking at roster sizes, and there's more coming out to kind of standardize the esports space.
Good.
Now let's look at Blizzard, right? So Blizzard owns Tespa, and they also own their own competition platform called Compete. We partner with Tespa to actually run varsity divisions right now, just in Hearthstone and Overwatch. This semester actually marked the first time we had a separate varsity division in Hearthstone that then feeds into their postseason. I think we have 17 schools competing in Hearthstone right now, and the top four get automatic bids right there into the postseason tournament bracket. And the first semester, this next academic year, so starting in August, we'll have the same model for Overwatch, but we'll have a lot more schools in both Overwatch and Hearthstone. Right? I think like 50 of our schools right now are still building out their teams to get ready for this coming academic year. So those are two examples of how we deal with publishers who want to be able to run their own competition, but want to work with the varsity level. And if we look at, with Valve and then Counter-Strike Global Offensive, we just run that internally. And we haven't announced this yet, so this actually might be some first news, but we partnered with High Res to run Smite and Paladins. We're working in tandem with them to do that, but it'll be run exclusively through NACE.
Great, great. And I think I also noticed that you guys were running a CS:GO competition as well.
Yes, yeah. That's the one through Valve. Uh, that's one where the developer or the publisher in this case, sorry, Valve is a lot more hands off. We work with them now through securing licenses just to make sure our
Hmm.
schools are safe. If they're running competition. We
Right.
have some certainty beyond just 1 year of competition because it's very important to realize there are some huge distinctions between a club level collegiate program and a varsity
Hmm.
level collegiate
Yeah.
program. A club program, by its very nature, right? It's just a bunch of friends at the end of the day, maybe more structured than not,
Yeah.
who come together to compete and play in a game. Varsity is the the other end of that spectrum, right? These are
Exactly.
players who may have never actually even known each other before from different parts of the world, who are intentionally recruited by a coach to come together and form the strongest competitive team that they can get. And then they're given additional resources, scholarships, a dedicated esports arena on campus, coaching, all the equipment that they're given is provided by the
Hmm.
institution, traveling budgets, tutors, housing, cafeteria, all of that, right, to make sure they be the best they could possibly be and represent the institution in the best light. It's a lot harder with that amount of resources going into it and kind of the leeway to build to that level for us to be able to switch it between games and God forbid, right, something happens to a game overnight. Well, what do we do to these students that we made a commitment to, saying, we'll give you a scholarship for 4 years to get you to graduate with a degree, and then after 2 years, nobody wants to play the game for whatever reason. What do you do with those students, right? Or maybe we're no longer able to because the publisher pulled the IP and they're doing something else. Those
Hmm.
are all major concerns at our level. And so typically you're going to see at the varsity level, we're going to be slower moving in adopting games. We're not going to adopt as many games as you'll see being competed in at the club level. and certainly what you guys are doing in the high school level. You guys are in a lot more
Yeah.
games than exist in collegiate esports right now.
Hmm.
But that's because we're much more intentional on that. When we move into a game, it is significant investments by our school. So we want to make sure those investments play out for at least a conservative, a safe amount of time to get those students, at least that first generation of students, through the doors and then get them to graduate with a degree.
Yeah, that's
Great.
something my school is just starting to do now. I've been talking to the people who are starting to head it. They're trying to get a program going. I think they have or are getting approval right now. From what I've heard, all the administration is on board, and next step is getting in contact with I think you guys and actually getting all the budgeting lined up and stuff like that. But just hearing the difference between they have the club right now and what it is versus what they're gonna be needing and planning on doing for the varsity level, it is a massive step and massive difference. But I
Yeah.
mean, oh, go ahead.
No, it's a huge difference, right? That is the administration taking a firm stance and making sure that we are responsible for these students, right? We're the reason they're even here at this
Hmm.
institution. That level of responsibility is it's heavy. It's incredibly heavy. So it's of course everyone wants to compete at the varsity level because that's when you get the recognition from your institution, right? You get scholarship dollars, you get equipment, you get the best coaches you can get. You get to compete at the highest level with other, the top competitors from all across the world. But it is a slow moving vehicle, especially in higher education, right? Nobody considers colleges or universities to be the hubs of innovation on campus, right? They may come out
Hmm.
with the newest technology that the commercial world takes out, but in terms of the campus actually changing, that's incredibly slow, and that's
Hmm.
because it's a very conservative model. There are many people who have a voice on the decision making process. It's not as fast as a company would be able to move if it wanted to.
Yeah, and
Right. So that kind of segues into a question that I have. Like, what's the biggest hurdle that you've had to face with trying to get NACE into a varsity level program?
Okay. The biggest hurdle, that is tough because there are a lot of hurdles.
I'm sure there are. Yeah,
there,
I'm sure there
there are
are.
a lot. It is not a smooth road at all. So, I mean, there are numerous hurdles. I would say that the first one is publishers, right?
Hmm.
We've been, I would consider, incredibly lucky and blessed to have the support we have from outside groups, from publishers, from media groups, from professional athletic organizations, and certainly from our members in the collegiate space, and now with the governing bodies of collegiate athletics as well. So we have a tremendous amount of support out there, but a lot of support doesn't mean much if you can't organize. And so that's working with publishers to standardize competition. What does a season of competition look like in a certain game? That is a tough question when you have, in our case, if we look at it, we have what, 5 different games that we're
Hmm.
actually in some level, one way or another, organizing, uh, but they're owned by 5 different companies, right? And those companies all have a huge amount of say of what their product looks like, how people utilize it. That's a level of complexity that has never ever existed in collegiate athletics. So we're all learning without really any blueprints to follow on that. Um, but yeah, there's a ton of big issues, but I say the biggest issue is coordinating with publishers, especially when those publishers are competitors with each other. Um,
Right.
it's that's a unique curveball in the space.
Hmm. We do have a viewer question. Do you want to go ahead and read it, Brennan?
Yep. So we do have a couple in here, but we're just going to start out with this one because it's sort of relating to what we're talking about now. So from Joshua 1017, his question is, what can the HSEL be doing better to prepare students for varsity level college esports? And what are all the games that are offered? So I assume that's going to be directed towards you, Michael.
Sure. Well, let me start with the games that are offered right now. Right now at the varsity level, there are actually quite a few different games. So let me talk about the primary ones, the ones that are the common denominators right now. So you can look at any institution and say they'll probably have a team in this game. It's League of Legends, Overwatch, and Hearthstone. Probably in that order as well. That's what's being primarily competed in this academic year. Moving forward, by the start of this August, we'll see Counter-Strike Global Offensive, we'll see Smite, we'll see Paladins, and there's a few more announcements I can't talk about just yet. So pay attention in the next month. You'll see a couple more games that'll be launched by this next academic year as well. That's the answer to the second part of your question. The first part, in terms of HSEL, well, one, it actually HSEL by its very nature, in terms of organizing high school competition, helps our coaches identify prospective students, right? Because beforehand, everyone was playing by themselves. There was no organization. We didn't know what schools had actually started teams, and our coaches would always prefer, if possible, to recruit from teams as opposed to just individual players who are highly ranked. Because we know this, we've done this. If you just recruit individual players who are all highly ranked, but who've never worked on a consistent team and don't know how to communicate, you're going to get destroyed by teams that communicate. It is an entirely different game. An example, League of Legends, right? So we're always looking for more high schools to officially get involved in the esports space. That helps us with recruiting. That helps us get better qualified students. I would say additionally, and this is a big focus for our institution, and I'm not too sure, and this is my ignorance on this part, with the high school esports league, I mean, we are at the collegiate level, academics is the first gate, right? If you don't meet the minimum standards to compete at the varsity level, you just won't compete. You'll have to take years off to get your GPA up, to get your standardized test score up, to get your class rank up. It is standardized. It's enforced at the school level right now, although in the next 2 years, we probably will have an eligibility center which will process all academic eligibility considerations for every varsity esports player in the U.S. But yeah, I cannot stress, it does not matter how good of a player you are. If you want to compete at the varsity level in collegiate esports, you gotta have good standing in your GPA, your academic components there. So that's one area where I don't know what the HSEL does intentionally there, but I would say selfishly for our schools, that's an area to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, we do have the same standards as you guys pretty much. I don't know exactly what the GPA standards are for you, but it's pretty much the same setup. We set a 2.0 requirement minimum within our rule set as of right now. Again, it is enforced on the school level, and many schools will have different requirements themselves. Some of them have higher. I know a lot of them have a 2.5 requirement or stuff around there. But I think, Aaron can speak to this more. It's a lot tougher to process high school age students' GPA information just because of the legality of actually obtaining and getting stuff like that. But we do have the rule in place.
Yeah, that's something that we look forward to doing in the future, is fully enforcing and having kind of a department that kind of manages and kind of oversees grades and everything to make sure that people are passing and they're actually eligible to participate, to make sure that students are in fact high school students. That's still kind of an issue. We kind of erased all of that, but we still have like a little bit of inkling within our league, but we do weed that out pretty well. That's like maybe a middle schooler or something like that who wants to compete at the high school.
We've had the same issue at the collegiate level, although the other way around, we've had older people walking in. It helps to have everyone's students now required to be on campus. They're all in the same arena. We have our staff there physically watching them, but in the old Wild Wild West days, that was that was a big issue. Schools got in trouble with that left and right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we've kind of figured out how we can detect and pick up, and then also enforce our rules to make sure that the correct people are playing on the correct accounts and everything like that. But we still encounter some issues, so having some sort of oversight like that will help out in the future. And we definitely want to make sure that we're enforcing an academic standard to help out people like NACE to recruit proper students.
Yeah, and before we get away from the topic of requirements and what's important in terms of being on a team, we do have a question from a little while ago, but from Koala Noob, asking, do you think that being in first place in your league is a big advantage? I assume they're referring to HSEL. So, how big of an advantage in terms of a recruiter standpoint is it for a team to place highly in like an HSEL? Place high in either each season or placing high in a national tournament that we have upcoming this summer?
It absolutely is important. So if here, I'll just kind of run through the characteristics that our coaches have told us they look at when trying to evaluate a student. First and foremost, they're going to look at academics, right? Because that's going to determine if everything else is kind of a waste or not. So they're going to look at academics first. They're going to look at what games you play. They're going to look at what positions you play within those games. They're going to look at your player rank. And then they're going to look at your competitive experience, right? Looking at competitive experience for an individual student is really hard right now. So for the most part, our coaches they don't really take everything for granted. What you tell a coach, they're going to pay attention to high school esports leagues. They're going to pay attention to some tournaments that run through Battlefy, through some tournaments run through Tournament, some of the more major tournaments that maybe aren't even high school exclusive, right? But that's really hard to do. But there are names that are recognizable, and that's going to help as well. All of those together are going to help get you in front of into a real conversation with that coach. And the next step there would be run you through actual scrimmages to see how well you communicate, how well you play, how well you play against people of the same or higher rank. That's the next step there. But that your competitive experience is certainly a characteristic that will get you to that second level.
Now, how much of an advantage would it be for, say, a team to be streamed and have an official match streamed so you can actually see the perspective of these teams and them actually playing, or them having recorded VODs online for coaches to view? Does that help, or does that provide any sort of advantage?
It doesn't hurt. I would say be careful because at that point you're showing everything.
Yeah.
So I'd say it couldn't hurt you if you were doing it right, understanding that people are evaluating everything you're doing on there. So you need to be careful about your choice of language, right? Some of the trolls or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But assuming you avoid all that, right, and you're just a good gamer, you just want to game against the best, yes, it does help. And I'll tell you, it's actually not because of necessarily your player ability, right? How good of a player, how skilled of a player you are. It's just that right now, I would say in all of collegiate esports, let alone just varsity esports, what we see right now is a lot of our schools are developing, they're growing, but they don't have a lot of people with the skill in streaming, sound engineering, video engineering, graphic design, the skill sets that streamers typically have to develop themselves in order to put their content out on Twitch. And those are much needed skills for our schools. So we've actually seen scholarships offered to students from the esports department, but not to a player. It's to a student to help them stream, to manage their Twitch channel, to put all that together. So I would absolutely say do it, but be careful with how you do it, knowing that there's going to be people who are using that to either assign more points to you in terms of how they how attracted they are to having you come to campus, or it can hurt you. If you do it well, there's opportunities, and those opportunities expand well beyond just being a gamer.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we just launched a new program where the affiliate broadcaster program for HSEL. So we're actually launching that program that I'm actually heading to bring people in, high school students who may be interested in learning how to broadcast esports from a single person level, so not working within a massive production studio. So we'll actually give them the set of rules, we'll help them out, get started, and then they can actually take some of our matches and stream them and basically get the practice in to potentially be able to come stream on our official channel, or get a bit of exposure if they want to not necessarily be a player, but if they want to learn how to do the live streaming and managing the esports behind the scenes. So that's a program we just started there. And then we're trying to get as many games on our official channel with our broadcast team now as we can. We've been having a bit of a lack of interest within the forum, but for those of you watching in the welcome channel in Discord, go fill that out. We will stream as many of your games as we can, but that's why I asked that, just getting a gauge on how important it is to potentially show and demonstrate your skills, or how well your team works together. But yeah.
Another viewer question that was kind of good. How does NACE work to bring more viewers outside of the community to grow esports within the world?
A very difficult question right there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So I was talking to I was in LA about a month ago. Everything's kind of running together right now. But I was talking to the CEO of the Drone Racing League, right? That's the drone racing on
Yeah.
ESPN. I don't know. Some people have seen it, some people haven't.
Mm.
But they have 50 million fans who watch their content consistently. And I had to ask, how'd you do that? Right? That fan base didn't just appear.
Yeah.
And his response
Yeah.
was a lot of time and a lot more money.
Yeah.
So knowing we're a nonprofit, esports is not slowing down for anyone in terms of how quickly it's growing and the need to organize. And we're also nonprofit, so the money's not
Yeah.
going to be something that we can just take from investors and put that into our institutions. So it's going to be organic growth. The way that we've been encouraging our schools to help grow viewership is actually not to worry about the outside audience, not to worry about converting fans who maybe aren't gamers, who maybe aren't interested in gaming, or alumni or boosters into being fans, first, but really to help actually organize and bring together your gaming community on campus first. That's going to serve as your core. So just like athletics, right? It's always going to be the people who want to play the games or sports, depending on whatever you want to call it, who used to play these games, who used to play those sports. Those are always going to form your actually core audience, and then everything else actually gets pulled in into that because of the weight and passion of that audience. So with collegiate esports being brand new, right? We're talking about, for the most part, 4 years of actually being a thing,
Yeah.
but now
Hmm.
finally in this first year of actually it being kind of normal-ish to see on campus, it is to make sure if you're starting a varsity program, engage with your club programs on campus, help build events around them, build festivals, bring them into your esports arena, let them use your equipment, because that core group right there is going to be your advocates who's going to take the esports message out to other groups who may not have saw esports out for themselves or may not have been interested until you kind of showcase that excitement, what the game's actually like, what competition's like. That's actually our viewpoint and the majority of our schools' viewpoints on how we build audiences. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Well, it's not a sprint, sorry, it's a marathon here, and it's important first and foremost how we kind of set the conversation.
Great. Are there any more viewer questions? Viewer questions, excuse me. Can't talk.
I'm just scrolling to see if we missed any. It looks like that's pretty much that. Oh, no, I did miss one. There's one directed towards HSEL. I am personally forming clubs in 10 high schools within my area. How did you reach out to colleges, and how could HSEL reach out to more high schools? So that's probably directed more towards you, Aaron.
Um, so how do we reach out to colleges? So basically partnered with NACE. We also emailed out a bunch of other schools that we've seen that started esports programs or have esports clubs and said, hey, join our Discord, join our community, be active, see if you can find students that'd be interested in joining your programs. But yeah, NACE is a great help. Check out their website, nacesports.org. They've got a list of all the colleges there, and maybe you can reach out to them. They have websites. Each one of them, each one has an esports profile with
Mm-hmm.
contact information, everything like that, everything you'll need there. How do we work on bringing more schools? Well, we work with students to create programs within their schools. So we reach out to students via Facebook advertising, different things like that, and bring them on our website, have them ask questions about the high school esports league, have them figure out what high school esports is, because that's kind of a new thing to a lot of students. They don't know that it's a thing. So we help them get them into the right direction, make sure that they know what type of questions their principals might ask, their teachers might ask in setting up these clubs, and support them from there. And then they go ahead and create clubs on our on Varsity Esports, on the high school esports league, and then start competing from there. We just try to make it as simple as possible, and then provide as many incentives as possible to these schools that are interested in joining.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, pretty much hit it head on there. I mean, you know better than anybody else in this room how we do it. But yeah, I believe that's it for viewer questions. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean, we have in this topic, unless Michael or Aaron, you guys have anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think that's all I had for questions. Really covered a lot.
Yeah. So I think the one thing, and this actually might be to add to Aaron's
Sure.
answer there, and it maybe doesn't apply to the high school level because that's an area you're an expert in, and I'm just trying to get more of those groups to engage with our schools
Yeah, for
at the
sure.
college level. But like when we first started, it was us finding schools and being an advocate of esports to administrations, right?
Hmm.
I think at the collegiate level, there's been many hundreds more clubs who've organized competition and who've built these great student bodies around gaming. But what we saw at the collegiate level is it doesn't really matter how passionate or organized student groups are. They hit a wall, and that wall is always the administration. The administration going, is this a good fit for the philosophy of our school? How much is this going to cost us? Can we even do this, or are we going to get sued by someone, right? There's just a million and one questions
Hmm.
when you just step back and look at it as an admin, right? As an athletic director, as a president, a board of trustee member, whoever it is, right? You always have a ton of questions just around the logistics of doing it, let alone whether then the philosophical questions of should we or should we not.
Yeah.
So we at NACE and a lot of our advocates, a lot of our member schools are we utilize as champions to go out there and talk to their peers about why they chose to do esports. And we showed a lot of the data. We developed a lot of the guides of how other schools have developed varsity esport programs, how they can do it too. And we always try to keep it to comparable institutions. So, schools with the same enrollment size, private or public, religious or non-religiously affiliated. I'd say if I was a student in high school and I was trying to see more high school level competition, one is I would relatively quickly work with groups who've done it and develop those blueprints. This is how it's been done at other schools. This is how we can do it at ours. I cannot tell you how much stress that removes from administrators, and more importantly, how
Hmm.
much more confidence that gives them to then act as a champion on your behalf to their peers and other administrators that you have to get approval from in order to kind of open up the piggy bank a little bit to get the access to facilities, to get access to the equipment. I would encourage you reach out to people around you that are doing it and learn from them and take notes, put down best practices. That's going to be the greatest tool you can utilize to see more schools, either at the high school space or definitely the collegiate space, become involved.
Right on. Yeah. We do a lot of that too. We definitely help out with administrators. We on countless calls a day with high schools and their principals, talking to them about the high school esports league and answering the question, what is esports and how can we use it?
Mhm.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome, and you guys have done a great job. I've seen your numbers grow an incredible amount in a very short period of time. So I'm looking for a lot more of that, so we can have more of our schools recruit those students. That makes it easier for us to start teams, and I think the whole ecosystem improves. The rising tide lifts all boats, if you will.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that is pretty much it for us. That's pretty much all the viewer questions. They've all been either answered in a chat or on a stream. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Michael, thank you for coming out. Great having you on here.
And
And
thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
all right, yeah, guys, that is going to be the end of today's podcast. So, if you do have any further questions after this, be sure to come into the Discord. Our interns, our staff, and our administrators are always happy to answer your questions. Michael, where can they contact you if they have any questions for Nace?
Best way to do it is to reach out through Twitter. You can also reach out through our website. Any questions, if you want to email us at info@nacesports.org, or you can just reach out through Twitter at NAC Esports. And one of our staff members, it might be myself, we're all kind of throwing it in there. We'll do our best to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. And again, guys, thank you for watching. If you guys enjoy the show, be sure to hit the follow button. You'll be notified every time this channel goes live, whether with games or another episode of Homeroom, which will be on every single Friday. We just started off season 2. Today, we try to bring on guests such as college recruiters, people like Michael, over at NACE. High school teachers, we discuss a whole massive variety of topics. So if you guys want to be part of that, follow. If you're feeling generous, of course, you can hit the subscribe button. It's $4.99. You get some awesome emotes. My favorite has to be the oof, although there's one beautiful emote, totally not my face or anything, but we do have those. And yeah, partners down below, all that fun stuff. If you guys want to check us out online, it is www.highschoolesportsleague.com. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you, Michael, for being here, and we'll see you all next time.